Teresita Blanco, the Archer sister, and we're reading Saturnastra Melina. This is chapter 31, part 2. I will go with her, though I frankly see no cause for concern. I think I know what stun your mistress is about to attempt. This problem might have been avoided if your group had succeeded in killing that sterling guy. Fanny kisses her and she says, thank you for help. Cannon then glowed as he changed into the form of a tiny bat before flying away. Fanny breathed a sigh of relief after Cannon was gone, and while walking back she noted that a few of the others were exchanging meaningful glances as she passed. And when she returned to camp, she would set about obeying Melina's command, and like Melina had instructed, Mia disguised herself as Melina by wearing her armor, and both still looked pretty similar from far away. And they also had the same height and slender frame, and the only difference was Mia's voice, and she had to make it a bit more high-pitched to match Melina's childish voice. And Melina's small army caught on quickly that her mistress was gone, and the cavalry had a different formation during such an eventuality. And they used a diamond formation with Mia at a center to keep her away from the battle. And Mia could also perform the hussar charge, and this one started with the troops loose, and when they were close to the enemy, they would tighten into a tight square as they charged to the ranks. And like most of Melina's formations, they were aimed at disorganizing the enemy formation. And 5 days passed, and Mia started to worry, and both approached Frederick and inquired as to Melina's whereabouts, and all he said was that Melina had gone to clean up Augustus' mistake. And Boris pondered on what Frederick meant, and after discussing it with Garrett, his friend said, it must be Sterling Guy. Augusta had plenty of chances to kill the bastard, but he failed every time, and part of the problem was that he was trying to follow Lucrezia's order. The fool. She should have trusted Melina's intelligence, and Melina probably knew everything that Sterling Guy knew. And there's no reason to have him alive, to keep him alive, said Borch harshly. If he was a dragon rider, she should have told Augustus, and maybe then he would have been more willing to kill the bastard, said Gareth. As Melina once said, some things cannot be helped, said Borch, and we can only hope and pray that she comes out alive from this little stunt of hers. At midnight, the gates of Veragero finally opened, and the army scrambled to take the city, and Melina's infantry, led by Augustus, too went inside, and they were aided by the lords who wore the same distinct armor as Melina's army. And at the time, the marching feudal lords despised that the Berserker allies had gotten the good armors, and in retrospect, it was a useful tactic since the distinctive armors with the red flaming capes helped them avoid friendly fire. Mia stayed behind with the cavalry since it was useless within the city walls, and while watching the flames, Cannon entered Melina's camp, and in a stern voice he asked, "What are you doing here?" "The cavalry is useless inside the city," explained Mia. "I got with new orders from Melina. The cavalry must make a run towards the castle before the remainder elders barricade themselves," explained Cannon. "Yes, sir," said Mia. And when she left the camp, Cannon and 2 others brought Melina and Basila to rest, and Melina was the one who was most heavily wounded, and Basila was unconscious, but not too bruised. And Fanny helped Melina lie down in a cot that was brought for her, and Basila rested beside her. And Fanny asked what cleaning the blood and grime from Melina's face. "What happened?" Struggling, Melina said, "I got careless, that's what happened." Her hoarse laughter turned into a coughing as she spitted out blood, and Fanny noted that Melina's face and hands were hot to the touch. Fanny undressed her mistress, thinking that she had a fever, and Fanny was not prepared to see Melina's nakedness, and it seemed to her that Melina had been stabbed numerous times and even mauled by a large beast, and this sight made Fanny's hand tremble, and she was shoved out of the room by Baron, who entered with an elven healer, and the last thing she heard was Baron yelling at the man, "Help her!" Fanny did not remember falling asleep, and she was sitting in the cold ground, resting her head on her knees, and before she knew it, she had fallen asleep, and a cold wind combined with the splendor of the morning sun awoke her, and with the coming morning came the memory of the dreadful night. And when Fanny entered the tent, she saw Basila eating a large breakfast, and Melina was bandaged up, but her breathing was at least regular, and Baron was watching over her, and based on the lines beneath his eyes, Fanny guessed that he had not slept. And Fanny was about to say something, but Baron placed his hand to her lips to silence her, and in her delirious state, Melina mumbled something. 20, then 7, now 6, then 12 and 1. Not desiring to anger Baron, Franny went outside to look at the city, and she noted that the towers and the city walls were sporting new flags, and around the walls were the heads of all of the elders on pikes, and she saw Mia riding back to camp, and her armor covered in blood from head to toe, and she had a crazy glint in her eyes. Fanny helped Mia dismount an imitation of Melina. Mia maneuvered to the forest until she found the river, and once there she performed Melina's morning libations. And Mia usually hated imitating this part of Melina's routine since it involves having to bathe in frigid waters. This time it was a welcome release. The potent stench of blood was nauseating. And while helping her bathe, Fanny asked, "So how did it go?" "It went great considering that all I did was stay in formation. Frankly, the ones in the outer rings with the pole hands and the halberds did the most of the fighting," said Mia sadly. The elves were a great help too, and using the mana pots Melina had installed, they were able to use their magic, and the pools are now empty, so they went back to manning the towers, and a good chunk of them went back home. "I was under the impression that you actually fought," said Franny, putting soap on Mia's blonde hair for the third time in an attempt to wash away the blood. "All this, I went a big rogue, and when the elders were finally captured by Augustus, I asked myself, what would Melina do? And after thinking things, I decided that Melina would personally decapitate them, so I hashed them with my sword. And the first two heads did not go down easily, and by the time I got to the fourth head, I got really good at decapitating. And just for kicks, I threw each head down the steps leading towards the audience hall as I went along," said Mia, smiling proudly. So like the imitator went the body double went nuts. Manny must have given her a look, and smiling Mia said, "Don't worry, they did not suffer. Luba would shoot their heads with a crossbow before I would get started. I know that Melina hates to make people needlessly suffer." Franny shook her head sadly before saying, "I think Melina would have forgiven their lives, and the elders were powerless without the supporters." "It's too late now," said Mia, looking somber, and the crazy glint in her eyes had been washed away by the river. By noon word had filtered outside the round that Melina was convalescent, and Lucrezia took it upon herself to see Melina, and coming with her were a few high-profile political prisoners that had been liberated, and they were curious to see the spy master who had helped put all of this campaign together, and as soon as he arrived at camp, Baron was outside planted before the entrance. He hissed, "You should not be here." "We just wanted to see how Melina was doing," said Lucrezia, taken aback by Baron's tone. "You already know this. Now be gone, all of you." And to make further an emphasis, Baron shoved Lucrezia away from the entrance, and she was trying to push her way inside, and she besought her lack of prudence when she felt Baron's hand on her shoulder. It felt like a searing hot cauldron, and it was Baron's respect for Melina which kept him from burning a weak and feeble woman to a crisp. Lucrezia's companions were about to start shouting at Baron, but when Melina opened the flask of her tent, and she was topless, wearing only a clean satin shirt, and her top, arms, and head and left eye were bandaged up, and yawning, she asked Baron, "What's the matter?" "These rude people wanted to see you," said Baron, gesturing towards the visitor, and Lucrezia was insulted by the impersonal manner that Baron had used to refer to her. "I don't want to see them. I'm tired and hungry. Make yourself useful, Baron, and go find Franny and tell her that I'm hungry, and that I have a sweet tooth to boot," ordered Melina before returning to her tent. And when Baron let Lucrezia and her party enter Melina's tent anyway, and Melina was drinking a whole jar of syrup as if it was water, and Lucrezia commented, "I'm surprised to see you eating so much." "Why? You eat too when you get hungry, and it takes me just longer to get hungry," said Melina disdainfully. "Plus, I'm injured. I need to eat to heal myself." Gesturing to Lady Lucrezia, she started the introduction. "This is Madam. I already know who she is, and I don't care," said Melina. "Why are you being so rude today?" asked Lucrezia. "I don't know, maybe because I got stabbed like 100 times. I would like to see anyone maintain a happy disposition in such a state. The point is that I'm not in the mood to play diplomacy," said Melina. "We should get going," said the ladies. "Melina's injured and tired. We will see her when she finally heals up," said the ladies. Don't bother was the last thing that the visitor heard before Melina left her tent. Well, that was rude, and even if you're injured, that is no excuse to behave like a brute, rebuked Lucrezia. Melina bit her mouth, but no words escaped her lips. However, her gaze pierced Lucrezia's soul like daggers, and at that moment she realized that her days were numbered if she dared to provoke Melina's ire further. And relaxing in her cot, Renina said, "Begone, I don't ever want to see you again, and send your mother my regards, and tell her that I forgive her for failing to meet the terms of our contract." "What contract?" asked Lucrezia, alarmed. "That is between me and your mother," said Melina. Lucrezia left the camp just as Fanny was entering it, and together with Mia and Barrel, they were carrying all sorts of sweets and cake. And Melina ate those items voraciously with the appetite of someone who had not eaten in a long time, and the more she ate, the stronger she seemed. At night, Fanny was relieved to notice that Melina was gone. It was a positive sign that Melina was performing her nightly rounds, and while patrolling the forest, Frederick thought he saw Melina throwing up, and when he came to see her from up close, he saw that she was crying. And standing over her, he asked, "What's the matter?" "Nothing, I'm just very disappointed. I always knew, and yet I hoped against hope that a miracle would happen, and in the end, he was all for nothing," said Melina sadly. Are the humans bothering you so?" asked Frederick. "No, just Lucrezia, and I did not want to, but we all must pay our dues," she said, wiping away a tear, and then she stood up straight and added, "Yes, we all must pay our dues, Herr Frederick." "The way you go on about contracts, deals, and payments, people are going to start thinking that you are a demon," said Frederick, laughing. "Let them think what they want. I know who and what I am, and that's all that matters," said Melina. What happened afterward was not written into the history books, and people do not want to admit the fact that they attempted to kill the maiden who had worked so hard for their freedom. And this betrayal must point that during the flanking maneuvers perpetrated against Sir Walter's troops, and the feudal lords were hoping that his army would be too weak to defend itself after the battle in the capital. Little did they know that Sir Walter was expecting their betrayal. And Melina had seen this in many future events years in advance, and the kingdom was her chessboard, and she had been playing to keep alive her most precious game pieces. And when Lucrezia returned to Sassari, she was surprised to be greeted with great animosity, and the people had learned of her betrayal. And to avoid the executioners, as Lucrezia succeeded her leadership to Boris and Mia, they had been ruling Sassari with justice and kindness and prudence for the last 37 years. And they were aided in this by Frederick, and with his help, Mia was finally able to have her first child. Augustus took care of Melina during her invalid state, and it took her 3 months to fully heal, and staying there was also Fanny, Gladys, Cedric, and Lord Sailor. And when Melina got well enough, she had one last bout against Augustus, and since he lost the duel, he was forced to use his old name, Agustina. And as the years passed, Melina's wanderings became more longer and more frequent, and eventually she did not return. She left but a simple note saying, "I am finally going home. It was fun while it lasted." Time, bro?
10 minutes.
This was the first and only note that Melina had ever bothered to write in a legible fashion, and it left no ambiguity. Her companions understood that they were never going to see Melina again. At least they thought this at the time. But indeed, she one day felt, but at least they thought this at that time. Alright, so we finally finished Saturnastra Melina. Bye bye and God bless.